Welcome, everybody, to the People, Purpose, and Profits Business Coaching Podcast.
Woo-hoo.
I'm Brian Buck, and my wonderful co-host is...
And I'm Kat.
And we are honored and excited to have Ley-Ann join us today. Ley-Ann, you want to just do a quick introduction of yourself, what your business about, and then we're going to dive right into it.
You got it. Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here with you all. My name is Ley-Ann Clarke, and I sometimes go by Ley-Ann Clarke Fredrickson. I have been a Robbins results coach now for, 12 years, working for Tony Robbins, master in the industry. Before that, I coached on my own with a company called Fast Track Moms for about 3 or 4 years. And in my history, we call it BT before Tony. I ran we all have a BT story. I ran a children's franchise, actually 4 of them, while my children were growing up. I bought the first one when my son was 4, and the second franchise when I was 9 months pregnant with my daughter. And then, let me just think, I ran those for 14 years. Wow. Somewhere around the 6-year mark, they morphed into physical development programs and music programs. So I ended up with 4 locations that I was running.
Wow. So you've been in the entrepreneur space for some time.
I really have.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I think since I was about 30 years old.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So it's a long time now. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I heard, and I'm curious for you, is when did you realize you were different? Because entrepreneurs feel different. Like, do you think, even though you began in your 30s, was that entrepreneurial bug kind of alive and well earlier, or did something just kick it into gear at that time?
That's a great question, Brian. Actually, let me just think. As you asked that question, what jumped into my head was some part of it never scared me because my father was an entrepreneur. He was a photographer. And he had a leased location that he would lease to run his photography business. And I grew up in it. I grew up sitting down, and it's let me practice taking photographs of you. So it never scared me. And then I was working for law firms, actually doing accounting for law firms for about 12 years, actually, when I had my first child. And there was something about dropping him off at 6:30 a.m. in the morning and picking him up at 5:30 at night to take him home, to bathe him, feed him. It just didn't connect with me. I'm like, no, I'm going to need something with more flexibility, something where I'm more in charge, something where I can call the shots a bit, because this isn't going to work for me. So I started searching then, and I did explore the idea of owning my own business right away. But we all have those naysayers in our life. We all do. And the naysayers in my life were my parents. They're like, you're crazy. Are you nuts? You're going to leave a perfectly good business, a position at an accounting firm, a law firm, basically, to run your own show. And do you know how hard it is to staff? And
yeah.
And it didn't matter what they said. It didn't dissuade me from. I was after certain values, like we all are. I was after some freedom and some flexibility, and some independence. Yeah. And I knew I could make great things happen if I put my mind to it.
And that is so powerful, because I think a lot of people don't have that support system, and to hear, and I think that the part of you that desire you had inside of you was so much stronger than the outside voices.
Yes,
and it's really important to recognize that. So I'm really happy that you share that with us.
Yeah, it actually didn't happen right away. So if any of your listeners are struggling, know that can be part of the process. It didn't happen immediately. It took me about 4 years, because at first I did listen to the naysayers. I'm like, maybe they're right. And so it was around the time my son was 4 years of age. The business owner that ran the franchise close to me actually phoned me and said, I'm running 2 of these and I want to lighten up and go to one. Would you like to buy one? And I was all over it. I'm like, yes, I'm ready. So I created a business plan and went to the banks and got the banks to approve me for finances. And she said, yeah, let's talk about it when I get home from Hawaii, because I'm going with my husband. And when she came home, she said, I've changed my mind.
Oh.
But the fire was in my belly. It was done then. I've got the business plan. I've got the bank's financing. So I went ahead and opened one, which was about a 45-minute drive from my primary residence. Yeah.
Wow.
And then a year later, that was the story behind being 9 months pregnant with buying the second, is she asked me again.
Wow.
Like, do you want to sell? Do you want to buy this location from me? And I'm like, wow, the timing couldn't be worse.
Yeah.
The timing couldn't be worse. But that one was about a 10-minute drive from my house.
Wow. You know, you
Yeah.
make me think of something that I think is a powerful lesson here. And just going through the preparation and the planning in your head reduces the fear. You know, like if you,
I
like
tell my
you
clients
were
that.
ready.
Oh, yeah.
When she said, "Oh, I'm not going to sell to you," you're like, my brain is already envisioning this.
Absolutely.
And you had action to it. It wasn't just imagination.
No,
it was,
wasn't.
I've got the finances, I've got the business plan. Why not?
Yes.
So that's such a cool story. I didn't catch, did she sell you the second? Did she finally let you buy it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. She kept one that was close to her home in that part of
Yeah.
town, and I bought the one that was 10 minutes. I just couldn't quite wrap my head around it. It's like a lot of the things you do with a business, you do for multiple locations, and it's one thing that you're doing. The accounting, for example, you can do that for multiple locations. There are other things, the printing, the marketing, there's so many tasks, and I could never quite figure out, why would I work almost as hard, 3/4 as hard to run two and get half the salary? It never quite made sense to me. So I ended up running two for 14 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I
Wow.
sold them. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I really love about the fact that you know the way your story goes and what you chose to do in that moment, because there are people that in your instance would have called it quits and would have said that is, you know, some kind of a bad faith, but yet because you were ready and because you decided differently and you made a choice to stick with what was given to you. And I think in a sense she opened up an opportunity for you.
She did 100%. And while she was in Hawaii, I was on the phone calling franchises all across North America, getting data, getting information, doing my homework. How many children did you start with in your classes? It was similar to ballet classes. It was something for children. And so how many children did you start with? How big did you grow in 1 year? I was getting all the data I needed. Yeah, finding the facts. So I did 2 years of potential financial projections, like a business plan recommends. And I just found it was a no-brainer. I could make it work so easily. And that took the fear away, knowing that I had a management salary that I was going to take no matter what, but I could live comfortably for 2 years. It took all the fear away. Doing that homework can be a really important piece. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, you brought up, and I know you are a Tony Robbins coach, and
Yes.
and thinking about there is power in joining something that exists versus having to create it all from scratch. I mean, so many business owners and coaches are always like, I gotta make this my own. I gotta do this.
Sure.
But you can plug right in. You want to maybe kind of talk about why that was powerful for you, and did you struggle with it's not my own, or because it's a franchise, or because you're doing it stuff? How did that feel, and kind of what was navigating through that like?
Yeah. Okay. Great question, by the way. For me, it's similar in coaching. Everything starts with a vision. Everything. And when I was ready to sell my company, I was probably ready at year 12. And I started to fight it. I started to fight it immensely. I wanted to sell at year 12. I was getting bored. I sort of have a 10 to 12 year window of careers, it seems, because I like variety. I like stimulation. And I was slowly starting to lose interest. Slowly. Still loved it in many ways, but ready for new challenges. What it took to run that business was nearly 7 days a week, 24/7.
Wow.
Yeah, it was full on. full on. Part of the reason I say 7 days a week, 24/7 practically, was I got divorced in that time and split finances with my husband, and became a single mom who was 100% in charge of raising my children alone with no financial support in any way. And so running the business became my way to support my family. And when it came to changing, it started with the vision of, I want to do what I love. I want to have these kind of conversations, the rich, deep conversations about quality of life and what's fulfilling for people. I want to have the juice, but I don't want to do the business side of it anymore. That's don't want to spend evenings working, don't want to spend weekends on marketing. No, I just want to do what I love, the craft I love. Now, does it mean I don't have my own business? No, it means I do. And I do take clients on the side, but I make sure I have a healthy balance. Life balance.
It's interesting because you bought the franchise for freedom, and then it was 7 days a week. You're like, where's the freedom? But it still gave you what
I talk about that all the time with my clients.
Yeah. Sure.
I did. I talk about that all the time. I often say, be very careful. The vision you're crafting or the values you want, in fact, is a really good conversation to have with yourself, and possibly grab a piece of paper and write it down of, what am I actually attempting to achieve with this decision in my life? What are the values that I want? You're absolutely right. And if I'd stayed with one location, just one, I believe I would have had the flexibility and the freedom. And that was the exact reason of why I got in the business. Exactly. A year later, when that decision was proposed to me, I was an emotional decision. This one's closer to home. I can run both. Yeah, I can grow. I can, scale it in many, many ways. And yes, I think that was a lot of the dissatisfaction, and the ultimate burnout was I was no longer living my most important values. And so I'll often say to my clients, when you want to own a business, be clear of the values that will be indicative of a great life. Otherwise, we can buy ourselves a job and end up really unhappy because we're overworked and overstressed.
Yeah, that's some of the coaching that I've done is, does this business you created help you live the life you're designing? And sometimes we're so focused on the business side, we don't think about, I just created a monster I have to live with. So
oh, and it was a monster. I had 1,000 families attending weekly. Yeah.
But one question that I've got is, I think sometimes I heard this, and I don't know how true this is, but I heard a coach talk about this, and I love it.
Okay.
And it was, Google created these biodomes, and they had like everything in there that was nature, because they wanted employees to be with nature, but in the city. And they found that all the trees were falling over. And the reason why the trees were falling over is because there's no wind in there. And the fact that it's wind that actually makes the roots stronger. And I just love that concept, in how so often we don't want problems, or we want the perfect, but we got to recognize that the wind or the challenges is helping us. So what I was going to ask you, I have a guess on your answer, but I want you to say it, is, would you ever if you could go back in time, would you not do those 14 years? Or did those 14 years help you be the better coach?
Yeah, not a chance. Not a chance. Yeah. The growth of that was exponential. Yeah. For my soul. It was exponential. I'll often tell the story when people say, well, I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm like, we don't need to be comfortable if we want to grow. We have to decide how we want to grow. Like, do we want to stay exactly the same as we've always been, or do we want to grow? Because when I first had to lead the classes and stand up in front of the parents and children and lead them and tell them what they're doing and can instruct, I was terrified. It was way beyond my comfort zone, way beyond. In fact, I volunteered my time for the previous business owner for 6 months for free to learn basically how to do it. And she put out surveys, and the surveys came back. She's not bad, but she's really breathy and she sweats a lot. And I say that with love and compassion because that was me in growth. Growth doesn't have to look beautiful. We just have to do it. And so if I hadn't taken on that challenge to grow, to expand, I don't even imagine who I'd be. I sure as heck wouldn't be working for Tony Robbins. There's no way. Yeah. It's all about sculpting the soul and strengthening the roots, as you put it. It's a great story.
Yeah, I have to see how true it is. I want to make sure, but I love it. It's a fun story. So
It is a great
conceptual story if it's true.
It's a great story. I love it. Yeah.
So we do talk about people, purpose, and profits, and kind of the balance of all three. What do those three mean to you? Or if in your time or coaching practice, do you have a stronger focus on one over the other? Or is this season in your life, maybe one is just really strong right now?
Well, as soon as you say that, what comes to my mind, of course, is the common thread in all of those is the person behind it. And Tony Robbins, one of his teachings at his program, Business Mastery, is business is a spiritual game. It's a spiritual game of how much you can grow yourself. And I truly believe that it is all about, getting in a what would we call it? A resourceful state. And it's a resourceful state that allows us to learn, that allows us to invest, to grow, to sit and study and learn and try and fail and try again and get up. It's a spiritual game of how much we can challenge ourselves to grow. And for me, impossible without passion. Impossible. I don't believe we can get ourselves to do it if we don't have passion for the subject matter. I think passion is a core tenet of having that resourcefulness, that mindset of how do I want to grow? How do I want to challenge myself?
Right.
That's true, especially when growth is kind of sticky and hard and not pretty. You gotta have passion to want to keep going.
Yeah. How do we get to the profits? Exactly. How do we get there?
Right.
If we're tired, if we're exhausted, if we're confused, if we're unmotivated, we'll never get there.
Right.
Yeah.
And also go the long run too, as well.
That's right.
And then I think one of the things that, and because you mentioned passion, I think one of the reasons you said that you left the franchise was because it was no longer something you were passionate about.
That's right. It's interesting. My son said to me once, he's a young adult and he's still trying to find his path a little bit. And he said, Mom, have you ever thought that maybe you thought too small for yourself? And I went, tell me more. What makes you think that? He says, well, you've pretty much succeeded at anything you've ever put your mind to. So do you think you should have put your mind to being a Hollywood actress or something? I went, well, that's really flattering that you would say that to me. But I said, I think you're looking at it quite not the way I see it. Whatever I've picked, I succeeded at it because I selected it. I wanted to do it. I had a passion for it. I had drive for it. I would get up early and stay up late to do it. Yeah. Literally all the time. Yeah.
I still do it.
And I still do it. Once I left that company, which I had a lot of passion and drive for, then it was carrying around a coaching book. I mean, I've got coaching books all over my desk here. And it was even books constantly. I would carry them everywhere with me. I see books behind Kat. Yeah. Because there's a passion. It's not work. That's the thing. It's play.
It almost feels like I missed out on too much time and I'm trying to catch up with
right.
lost time.
Yeah.
It's like it's not work. It's like play.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
When I worked with a lot of high performers, and you sound like the people that I've worked with, and I've also, I always bill myself as a lazy high performer. I get a lot done, but I don't want to do a lot of work at it. And high performers, we get to a certain level of mastery and then we don't care. Like we do get bored and we're ready for a new, greater
challenge.
there's kind of the getting your iron sharpened, but then there's a point where you're like, it's sharp enough. I don't want to get any sharper. I want to get a new blade and sharpen that. But
Yes.
you make me think, when you transition from the one business into coaching, what was the transition like? And maybe you were already there, but was there any kind of, I don't know, grieving or transition from not caring here to now caring over there? Or is it pretty much your brain was already done with it, so you're just replacing? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, great question. A few things came up as you said that. One of the first was, I think dissatisfaction starts bubbling up in you, and it's like, all this busyness. I'm not up to date on current events. I don't know actors and actresses. I feel like I'm not really flowing in conversations with others because I don't know what's happening in the world. You lived in this bubble of business for so long. I feel like I'm amazing at communicating about these subjects that I've talked about for ages with the people in my classes, but I don't feel like I'm very good at communicating with adults anymore. So I started to find gaps in my own development, and I'm like, I want to close those gaps. I want to become an effective communicator with adults now. It's great that was with parents and children, but it's not satisfying anymore. So absolutely, though, when I sold that business, without a doubt, I went into an identity crisis. I did. I can literally feel it. I journaled all the time at that point, all the time. And I can remember speaking to my boyfriend, who's now my husband. And I mean, I could go to Disneyland. I lived in Vancouver, British Columbia at the time, and I could fly to Disneyland and go, hi, there's the Gymboree lady. It was Gymboree playing music franchises that I ran. And so I could be anywhere in the world, and I would have parents recognize me and shout me by name. And so it was, who am I if I'm not that? Who am I? Who am I if I'm not that? There was some significance to that, I suppose, and just confusion about, and as I dwelled on that subject for quite a while, it hit me that, hang on a second, just because you sold it, does every amount of blood, sweat, and tears go with you? Because you sold it, just because they bought it, does that mean they've earned the right of 1,000 people weekly in classes? No. Every ounce of determination, of creativeness, of resourcefulness, of blood, sweat, and tears was still in me. And it helped me see that I'm way more than my business. I'm everything that I brought to it all those years. And if everything I brought to it all those years is still here, then I can take that to the next place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You make me think of like the whole college alumni. Like, I never stopped being an alumni in my college, but I'm not at the college still. And I love that everything's additive, even though you're adding a new thing. It doesn't, you're still the Gymboree person from X to X, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And as we talked earlier, it completely built for what you're doing now.
100%. 100%. Yes. Yeah. We take everything that's within us to the next place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, people who transform through building a business over the years, and they learn all the ins and the outs, if they were to lose it, they can build it right back up within a very short period of time because of the person who they became.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
I would really love to. I know I'm switching up the gears a little bit, so maybe Brian, you want to ask your question first?
Well, I would say what's coming up to me is some newer coaches and consultants that I've interacted with. And so often they go, I used to do this, now I want to do that. And they think it's different and some of the advice I've heard other coaches give these people is, you take that with you. I mean, it's what we've been talking about, but I just think so often when we get into coaching and consulting, we think this is a new thing versus it's a continuation in a different vibe. So that's what was coming to me as you were talking.
Yeah, thanks.
And I love that because it's not, and I love that you mentioned that because we think of interruptions, and when we do that, we feel it's separate. So that way, in the way you've told it, it means it's just, a continuation of a journey of like continuous growth.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Of course, I love those stages of learning from NLP. I'm sure you
Mm.
guys have heard of them.
Yeah.
I love them. You know, we don't know what we don't know at that bottom step. We don't know.
Mm.
And then we get up into conscious incompetence, where we're consciously aware of how much we don't know. But we've been here thousands of times in our life, thousands of times. And it's about just sticking with it.
Mm.
How do we get up to conscious competence, that next level where it's like, I'm starting to get this now. I'm slowly starting to get the hang of this. The only way is practice. That's it.
Mm.
And then you stick with it long enough and you get to mastery, and we can do it in our sleep. And I've been a coach for Tony for 12 years, and there's many times I still don't feel like I'm a master.
Mm.
Yeah, I have a high standard for mastery, and there are many days it's like, yeah, this flows right
Mm.
out of me, and other days there's still growth. Yeah.
And I
Well, the funny
honestly,
thing with mastery, I'll just do this really quick and then throw to you. But the funny thing with mastery is it just makes you more acute of what you don't know.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
and that
Yes.
is a sign. That is a sign of
Yes.
mastery, when you question yourself, because
Yeah.
you start seeing the gaps. And I think someone said that is wisdom, and I completely
Yeah.
agree with
Oh,
that.
I like
Mm.
that. Yeah. So it's helping those clients see that second stage, that's the toughest one. Whew. All of our internal saboteurs will be up. We'll be
Mm.
questioning ourselves. It'll be saying, are you smart enough? Are you capable enough? You're
Mm.
not competent enough. And that's exactly where you're supposed to be in level 2.
Mm.
Yeah.
And accept that, because when you
That's right.
struggle with it, it just fights back, and it fights back ugly.
That's right.
And I
So when
would
I
agree.
was learning my new craft, I literally put those levels, like steps, up on my wall on a bulletin board. And I would remind myself as I stepped into the discomfort of, it's okay, you're at level 2. It's
Mm.
exactly where you're supposed to be. And I think more new business owners need to give themselves permission to be there.
Mm.
It's almost like they expect to go from, day 1 to I need to know
Mm.
everything. And it isn't true. It's too big a jump.
Mm.
And it causes so much doubt and fear and blame
Yes.
and all these negative feelings that aren't like supposed, no, not that they're not supposed to be there, but they show up and they just get in the way of your dream.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's
You know,
coming to me? Oh, go ahead.
like, this is a question that I wanted to ask like a while ago, because I would really really love to hear your take, Ley-Ann, on what do you believe purpose is? Because I've heard so many definitions, and I would like, based on your journey, what is your take on it?
That's a great question. I do have a very specific answer for that. I think it takes a little while for all of us to find our purpose, but I believe we're born with it. I believe it's something inside of us. 100%. It's a gift from our creator, just like our
Mm.
fingerprints are. They don't match anyone else on the planet. There's something that's been put inside of us, something. And it can take a while to find. And I'll often ask my own clients, think about Mother Teresa's purpose. It's just so obvious. So obvious. It was to love anyone and everyone, to love the unlovable more than anything on the streets of Calcutta. She had a clear purpose. And some people would say, well, that's not a purpose. And it's like, really? She won the Nobel Peace Prize for that. Steve Jobs, what was his purpose? It was, to unleash, to change the world through amazing technology. And so it's almost an overarching approach to how we're living life. And Elon Musk, what's his purpose? I believe it's something about innovation. He wants to colonate Mars. And of course, he's changing the world through electric cars. So our purpose is already inside of us. It's up to us to find us. And it's been in everything we've done. When I worked at the law firms, I slowly moved my way up in the accounting department, and I loved helping the more junior staff believe in themselves enough to move up as well. I'd be saying, well, let's train you in this, and then you'll be ready to move up to the next position. And then I'm in my business, and I'd be with the parents and 2-year-olds, and they go, well, they can't do that. And I go, why don't we show them once or twice, and then see if they can mimic us? And sure enough, I would show them a few times, and then the parents would go, oh my God, that's amazing. They can actually do it. And so you're probably starting to hear, I believe my purpose is to unleash human potential.
Mm.
And it brings me so much excitement, so much peace, because I do it now with adults. Yeah, it's helping them to believe in themselves and go after their dreams and not hold anything back, to just invest fully in their potential. Yeah, so that's my take on purpose. It is in us. There's something that we're uniquely made for. And when you can finesse it down to just a few words, it's something in you. So it'll be an approach in everything you do.
Mm.
I can unleash potential. I could unleash human potential pumping gas. I could, because I'd be brightening everyone's day. I'd be saying hello and welcome. And yeah, is there any way I can help you or serve you today? I would be helping, but the vehicle of coaching allows me to perform it in such a greater fashion.
Right. Well, I sure think there's so much more potential to keep talking, and our time is running short. And this has been such a great conversation that definitely touches Kat and I's heart, because I think we are all three of us are aligned in what people are capable of doing. They just need a little bit of insight and support on action to be able to get there. And I love how that's your purpose, and that's the results that you've been getting no matter where you're at. And I love how you can go back in time and just see that purpose showing up other places, even if you weren't doing it on purpose, but it was still there.
There's a common thread. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we even name it.
That's right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
It will be there. Yeah.
How do our listeners who want to continue to follow up with you and see the great work that you do, or how would they connect with you after this?
Oh, there's a number of ways they can connect with me by email, LeyAnn.c@tonyrobbins.com, or my personal email, ley-ann@shaw.ca, or they're welcome to find me on Facebook/Ley-Ann Clarke. Ley-Ann Clarke Fredrickson, I believe it says at this moment. They're even welcome to call me, 250-586-8139.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, Thank you again for your time. And I also wanted to invite our listeners to connect with Kat and I. We've got a Facebook group where we talk about our episodes. You get to interact with the two of us as hosts, but you also get to interact with each other, because we don't do these just because we want to tickle your listening ears. We do these because we want you to get a piece of insight that you could be able to turn into something that increases your business, increases your happiness, makes your life better. So join the Facebook group, do that. We also have a Facebook page that just reminds you of this, but you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you don't like looking at us, you can listen to the audio podcast. And just listen to that. We're on your podcaster of choice. So thank you so much for your time. And
you are so welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.